Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today, Bob. Please tell us your full name and what, if any, positions you hold right now.
Well, my name is Robert James Garlow, and currently I belong to several veterans organizations, and I hold positions in all of those. The first being the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I am currently the State Junior Vice Commander. I'm also a member of Post 36 in Boulder City, and I'm the Quartermaster Adjutant for that post. I belong to the Military Order of the Cootie, which is the honor degree of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And
Why Cootie? What does Cootie mean? I saw that on the thing.
Okay, Cootie. It actually goes back to World War I when they were fighting in the
Trenches.
And what they had was they had the lice, different kinds of head lice. And instead of calling them European lice and this kind of lice because they're all different, they just started calling them cooties. And when they came up with the Military Order of the Cootie as the honor degree for the VFW, they decided to call it the Cooties. And our emblem is, actually I got one on the back. It's a little bug, but that's a cootie.
Yeah, I knew what a cootie was. It just seemed a strange name. That's all. Now, those titles that you just read off, you just quoted, are, I don't know, to me in my civilian thinking, seem very, I don't know, alien to me. Can you tell us a little bit about, what it means for these things like adjutant quartermaster or quartermaster adjutant? What does that mean? What do you do?
Okay, the quartermaster adjutant. Quartermaster is basically like the treasurer of our post. All financial, everything financial goes through the quartermaster. The adjutant is more like the secretary. So
you really hold two positions?
Yes.
It's not one position with two names?
No. The quartermaster is actually an elected position. The adjutant is an appointed position. And in some posts they have a quartermaster and then somebody else is appointed as adjutant. In our post I hold both.
Please tell us a little bit about your family of origin, where you were born and grew up, any siblings, what your father did, whatever, something like that.
Okay, I was born and raised in Glendale, California. Our family background is actually everything. Dutch, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, but the main part of our background is Scottish from the Highlands. And I have a sister who was adopted, and both our parents have passed away now, and my sister lives in Boulder City along with us.
Okay. What, if any, religion were you raised in?
Baptist. Yeah, Baptist.
And are you still go to that church, Baptist church?
Not really as much as we used to.
But if you were going to identify, if you were going to identify, you'd still say Baptist.
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay. And where'd you go to? You have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. Where did you go to school for those?
Actually, the bachelor's degree was in architectural engineering. It's a 5-year program at Cal Poly State University.
In Pomona or San Luis Obispo?
No, San Luis Obispo. Yeah. And graduated from there actually in 1966. My wife and I actually got married 2 years before I graduated. So we got married in 1964. And we've been together ever since. After I graduated in '66, I actually enlisted into the Air Force and went into the Air Force. And it was while I was in the Air Force that I was selected to go to the Air Force Institute of Technology in residence to get a master's degree. And that was in what they called engineering facilities. It was master's level work in civil, electrical, and mechanical engineering, all three at the same time.
First of all, why did you enlist when you already had a bachelor's degree and could have gone in as an officer? And then how did they select you to become a Mustang? To become an officer?
Okay.
An enlisted who becomes an officer is a Mustang.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of interesting. I was in a 5-year program at Poly. I had sent a letter to my draft board telling them that I was in a 5-year program. In my 5th year, the start of my 5th year, I got a notice. They canceled my school deferment, and I got a notice to report for a draft physical. So I went back down to North Hollywood, actually to Los Angeles, and did my draft physical. But then I went over to the North Hollywood board and asked them what was going on, because they were going to be drafting me before the end of my 5th year.
It seems insane time to take you.
Well,
Let you finish your education.
That's what I thought. And I says, why? I sent you a letter. And they looked in my folder and he says, yes, here's your letter, but it wasn't certified. It wasn't from the dean of the school. And I says, so instead of telling me that, you cancel my school deferment. So I went back and I went and saw the dean. He sent the letter. They gave me a deferment till the end of June 1966. And I knew where I was going to be in July of 1966. I was going to be in Vietnam. So I basically went down and actually I tried to get into the Naval Air Program, but I couldn't because I wore glasses. Passed everything else, but then I looked around and I went and talked to the Air Force recruiter, and that's how I got in. And what they did was, he says, oh man, we're looking for engineers right now. And he says, I can guarantee you we can get you a slot into officers training school right off the bat. And that's what happened.
So you really didn't go in as an enlisted. You went in as an enlisted only to go to OCS.
Correct. I enlisted as an airman basic, drove to San Antonio, was promoted to the rank of staff sergeant for pay purposes only, went through officers training school, was discharged as a staff sergeant, reason being to get my, to be
your commission.
Commissioned as a second lieutenant.
Okay. I believe the term for that is snafu.
Yeah, one of them.
So why did you decide to study why engineering?
Why engineering? Well, my dad was a general building contractor. I worked with him from the very, very start. I really got into building things, and I did all of his plans and specifications and all that kind of stuff, putting them in to be able to get those approved so we could do the work that we did. We built houses for spec, things like that. And I was really involved in doing that, and of course hands-on, actually working on building homes, doing remodel work in houses, actually building commercial facilities or small commercial facilities. So I had a whole background in that, and I really wanted to go into, at first I wanted to go into architecture.
Well, you studied architectural engineering.
I wanted to go into architecture, basically designing buildings. I got up to school at Poly, which is a little bit different than most schools. They have what they call a reverse curriculum. They give you part of your of the stuff in your
major.
Field, in your major. They give you that right off the bat. And so you have something in that, and you can see, do I really want to do this? And a lot of people came up there to go into architectural engineering and switched to architecture or vice versa. So I go up there and I went in originally for architecture, and I really didn't do that well in like presentations and freehand drawing and doing the really making it look nice on paper. I could do the designs, and my designs were really good and all that. So my faculty advisor says, why don't you change? And I changed to architectural engineering, and it was great.
I noticed that you had 2 gaps in your employment after you retired from the Air Force. A couple of them, one for like 18 months and one for like 13 months or something like that. And I'm wondering why it took you so long to land a job that you found appropriate.
When I retired from the Air Force, I really wanted to get into engineering. However, in the Las Vegas area, it's kind of cyclical. And it seemed like every time I wanted to get a job, or I was trying to get a job, the engineering jobs were way down and they didn't want to hire you. So I fell back on the other part of what I did in the Air Force, and that was maintenance and operations.
That's kind of what they sent you for your master's for.
Not so. The master's was actually in design type work for electrical, mechanical, and civil engineering, and which is basically working on things like electrical deals. We did our report that we did for our in lieu of a dissertation was a study on environmental handling of a building and changing things with the building on the outside, on the inside, how things were built to save energy costs. And so that was that. But the other part of the engineering in the Air Force is you maintain the base, including the runways. The fire department falls under civil engineering in the Air Force. So it's a whole gamut of running like utilities, all of the maintenance and operations of all the buildings, the heating, the sewage plants, or
Everything.
Sewage, everything.
So facilities management.
Right. So that's what I went back on. And I got several jobs working for hotel, casino hotel. I worked for the Sundance, which we later changed to the Fitzgerald's downtown. I was facility manager for Valley Hospital for a while. And while I was there doing that, my dad went in and had an operation on his heart in Valley Hospital. It was kind of neat because I could go in and be with them even more than my mom or anybody else because they let me in because I actually worked there. But yeah, it was. Then finally, in May of 1998, I answered an ad and went to work for a place called PBS&J. They were doing contract work for the city of North Las Vegas, engineering services. And I worked for them for 2 years, and then the city came to me and said, would you like to come to work for the city doing the same thing? And I said, sure.
For more money, better benefits.
Better job. Actually, I was an associate project manager, and they made me a project manager. I had a lot more responsibility working for them. The pay and the benefits were pretty good. They were about the same, but the retirement was PERS. It was PERS retirement. So I worked for the city of North Las Vegas for a little over 8 years. I look back on it, and it was actually a lot of fun. I had some great people to work with a few exceptions. But some of the projects that I worked on, I was the design project manager for the North Las Vegas, it was the Sea Dorm, which is a 400-person detention dormitory, and then I was the design project manager for the North Las Vegas Justice Facility, which included